Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Podcast. I'm your host, Cyril Joe Quinn. Recording this on a Thursday, the first podcast of September. Fall is right around the corner. We had one day last week where it was like 1,000 degrees, and I think summer, went out. Summer had his last whimper or his last hurrah from that standpoint, but fall is coming. And of course, that means football season will be in full effect again in the NFL starting tomorrow night with the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs hosting Baltimore. As far as the NFL season, I was just thinking about what the NFL season could possibly look like. Again, the season is an absolute marathon. It's going to have 4 or 5 twists and turns, especially when you talk about a 17-game season. So I think the one thing to look forward to. And by the way, let me get this out the way. I'm sorry, I got some maintenance as far as the podcast. This is not the season premiere of the Real Deal podcast. Season 17 will premiere next week. I'm probably thinking either Tuesday or Wednesday, more likely Tuesday. So that will be the official premiere of the Real Deal podcast. We will celebrate our 17th season. Can you believe that? 17 years of this podcast. So this is not the season 17 premiere. I wanted to kind of have the NFL, want to have a week of NFL football in play before I did the season premiere. So that will be next week. But we have again a lot to talk about on this particular podcast. A lot to do in with the NFL, college football, and some pop culture. Again, the NFL. I don't take week September seriously from a standpoint of you can your season can go down the tubes in September with an 0-4 start, or depending on what division you are, 1-3 start. But remember this about September. Teams do not practice as much as they used to during the offseason. You're talking about preseason is a joke. No one hardly plays in preseason. No one. You have a number of quarterbacks that won't even take a snap for the most part for some of the preseason. I've seen years where Aaron Rodgers didn't play at all in the preseason during his time with Green Bay. So you have to be careful about how you gauge September football as far as the team, who the teams to beat are, or don't overreact to it. September, it's still preseason. Guys are still not in, they're in football shape, but they're not in top tier shape they're not at their peak in terms of the shape that they'll be in terms of due to the fact that they're not playing a lot and they're in preseason. There's not a lot of hitting going on with practices at practice. So that is you're going to see some bad tackling. Okay, you're going to see probably some bad offensive line play, especially with new units, offensive line units. So don't overreact to September football. That's the one thing that I've learned, especially of late, the last 10 years of watching football in particular, especially like maybe last 5 years or so. As far as the game tomorrow, again, you have 2 back-to-back. This is, football is so greedy. Oh, it's so greedy. So, it used to be, Thursday, and then we can kind of sit on that and, we'll get all set for Sunday. No. You have Thursday and Friday. And again, you wouldn't. The idea of a Friday night NFL game to kick off a season, to begin a season, I never thought. I'm not gonna say I never thought it would happen, but it's just where we're at with the NFL. The NFL can do, in terms of scheduling, the NFL can do whatever the hell they want. They can schedule a game. It doesn't matter. They can schedule a game at 2 a.m. People will watch. It doesn't matter. The product is so wanted and so much in demand. They can do whatever they want. So, before you even digest Kansas City, Baltimore. You're going to have Philadelphia and Green Bay. Two great matchups, by the way. Like these are four teams that can. Three of the teams I think could possibly win the Super Bowl, could get to the Super Bowl. I don't think Philadelphia. I don't believe in Philadelphia at all as far as getting the Super Bowl. I just don't. But they'll be mentioned amongst the contenders. But two very good games. But again, don't overreact to September football. Don't overreact unless it's a major injury. Hopefully, there's not. Don't overreact to the two games on Thursday and Friday. So we are absolutely just less than 24 hours away from all the football being kicked off. So from here to from tomorrow until February is going to be NFL dominated as far as television and as far as the attention from in terms of the sports world. Deep dive for this edition of the Real Deal Podcast. Clemson football, the fall of Clemson football. Clemson was absolutely embarrassed last Saturday against playing against Georgia, 34-3. Not surprising that they lost to Georgia, but the manner in which they lost was very telling. Remember this about Clemson. Clemson had a stretch from 2013 to 2020. Let me give you Clemson's final. I'm not going to give you a record. Let me give you their final college football ranking. So they finished 8th in 2013. They finished 17th, which was an off year for them. 2014, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2. Okay, so that included two national championships. That included 4 playoff appearances. The last 2 years, they've lost. Well, last year they lost 4 games. They get embarrassed against Georgia, and the bottom line is, Dabo Swinney, just amazingly at only 54 years old, which is still young for a coach, and young in general. 54 is not old by any stretch of imagination. Refuses to adapt to college football to where college football is at right now as far as the transfer portal. All the other top schools, Alabama, Georgia, whoever you want to look at, they're in the top 10, whoever, Michigan, all these schools are embracing the transfer portal. It's just the way. I mean, Georgia, which is clearly by far the top program right now in college football, they had 11 guys transfer, 11 people from the transfer portal this year on their team, on their roster. Clemson, since 2021, has only taken 2 players. Think about that for a second. The last 4 years, they've only taken 2 players from the transfer portal. Okay. You had Roddy White, former Atlanta Falcon wide receiver, who was a very good NFL player, come out and basically say that that they offensively they had too many white dudes. Okay. Again, Dabo Swinney, you look at these coaches who have not embraced this new way of thinking as far as in college basketball and college football, as far as the transfer portal. Jay Wright from Villanova got out. Jay Wright is not by any stretch of imagination an old guy. Like, Jay Wright could have coached easily another 10 years. Easily. He wasn't like the way college. He took his 2 national championships and said, I'm good. He's made a ton of money. He was like, you know what? All right, see ya. And Dabo Swinney basically, has not embraced this. He's been publicly, he's been very outspoken about the direction of college football. Nick Saban outspoken. Nick got out. Nick was like, nah, I'm good. I'll take my 7 national championships, 6 at Alabama, and I'm good. Made a ton of money. It will never like can just basically walk to the mailbox and collect a check for the rest of his life. And he's good. He's like, nah. So those coaches, those two coaches in particular, both all time great coaches, just said, I'm good. I'm not adapting. I'm not. We're not like no. And if you're going to have any type of success, especially in college football, and even in college sports, college football and college basketball, you have no choice but to adapt or adjust to the transfer portal and the NIL situation with NIL and paying athletes and dealing and navigating that. If you can't adjust to that, if you are not willing to accept that that's just the reality of where we're at in 2024, you are not going to have sustained success at either on the college football, in either college football or college basketball, especially college football. Or both, either one. But college football, you have to like the recruit again. I looked at Clemson's recruiting. It's not like their recruiting has dramatically fell off. Like, yeah, in the early 2020s, they had some years where they were top 5 recruiting. Now, I mean, they're still in that like 10 to 12 range. That's still like if you're amongst the top 12 schools in terms of recruiting, you're getting high caliber, top end talent. If you're amongst like the top 12, top 15 school, you're among top 15 in recruiting. You're getting like that. Those are still top 5-star prospects that you're getting. Guys who more than likely will play on Sunday. But the transfer portal can fill, the transfer portal, those guys can, they keep you on a level where they help keep you on a level to where Georgia's at right now, to where Alabama's at right now, to where Ohio State, where those schools are going to be year in and year out, either championship contenders or playoff contenders. Period. That's the difference. And Clemson, from a recruiting standpoint, they recruit well, but they're not recruiting at the level of Georgia or Alabama right now. And the bottom line is they're not going to recruit at that level because, again, those schools have embraced paying the player. Those schools have embraced the fact that the players have become the stars now of college football. It's no longer the coaches. Here's the thing. Those days where the coaches have, you can be a star, right? You can be Dabo Sweet. You could be Kirby Smart. If Jim Harbaugh would have stayed in college, he would have been still a star of college football, star at Michigan as a coach. You have to share that now. It's no longer about you. It's no longer about you as a coach in college football or college basketball. It's about the player too. You have to share. It's not even about sharing the money. It's about sharing the attention, the accolades. These coaches have enormous egos. Trust me, they do. I've been following them for 30 plus years. There was a time, again, those days where of a Dean Smith, of a Mike Krzyzewski, and give Krzyzewski a lot of credit. He absolutely embraced. He was able to adjust and stay along, and he stayed as long as he possibly could stay. Eventually, he was going to retire, but I don't think this. I don't think it was the NIL and the way transfer portal that drove him out. He just got out at a perfect time. It was just perfect timing. In essence, I think if he was 10 years younger or 5 years younger, he'd still be coaching. These guys like 70 years old. At some point, you want to enjoy your life and your grandkids and what have you. But they have to share. And you have to share in 2024 on the level of college sports. The playing field is not. I'm not going to say the playing field is completely even as far as the athletes and the universities. The universities are still getting the majority of the money. Like that, let's not confuse that. But right now, the players have a lot. They have a lot to say, a lot of power as far as um, you know, these NIL deals, transferring. Now again, it is not. Listen, I'm all for the players getting paid. The system's not perfect. It's just like this. It hopefully in 4 to 5, 10 years, it looks better. I'm not big on guys transferring like 10, like 5 times. Like it is one thing you transfer once. If you transfer more than once, then that it's not about the coach. It's not about the university. It's about you. Like I'll give you one transfer, one. Now, there've been guys that are transferring like literally every year. Like that you transferring 3 times. That's on you. So it's not a perfect system. We know that. But again, the bottom line is the players deserve the money. They've been deserving the money for years. They've been like they this was one of the biggest hypocrisies in all of society. The idea that the players do all the work, the majority of the work, and everybody else gets paid except them. So, getting back to Dabo Swinney, it's like success can be a double-edged sword because success can like blind you, and you really think about you really think that it is all about you and your system and your way of doing things, and that could cloud you. That could cloud you of not that could cloud your judgment. And right now, Dabo Swinney, again, these years, these 4 or 5 lost seasons are going to continue. They're going to lose 5. They're going to lose 4 or 5, maybe 6 games this year. Even in a week, even in the ACC, that is not great. You look at Clemson's schedule. I want to look at their schedule. But no, these coaches have not been used to sharing at all for forever. This was like this forever. They have not been used to sharing, and a lot there are going to be some guys, and we've already seen it. Saban, Jay Wright, who just are not going to be with it. It's just not. Clemson. They NC State. I mean, Louisville. They still have NC State. Still have Louisville. Schedule's not crazy. Florida State is in in crisis right now. Kentucky, like it's not a crazy schedule. South Carolina always plays them like they're Super Bowl. They're still going to lose 4 to 5 games, and the schedule is not even. It's not even crazy. Like it's not like their schedule actually is. Dare I say, kind of soft. It's not like a murderer's row. Hey, when you listen, the ACC is not that good, but they're going to lose a lot of games. Those days of Clemson being a top 5, top 10 program, those days are done, unless Dabo Swinney has a come to Jesus meeting with himself and decides and changes his whole how he's doing things. And there's nothing to me. There's no indication that he's going to do that. He's won 2 national championships. He's going to probably be in the College Football Hall of Fame. So I can see Dabo. He might take a couple. Yeah, Virginia Tech could be a loss. Virginia Tech always plays a part. Pittsburgh. I mean, they're going to lose 4 games minimum. The question is it 9-4, 8-5? They'll get to a bowl, but they'll get to a bowl that doesn't matter to Clemson fans who have been used to going to January 1st bowls or going to playoff games. But here's the thing, like, and this is what Dabo's going to learn the hard way. Fans are greedy, and fans can become spoiled. It doesn't take a lot for fans to become spoiled. You give a fan a 6 or 7 year run where you are near or at the top of college football. Well, outside of Alabama, you probably are one of the preeminent program up until 2020, 2021, up until 2020, 21. Outside of Alabama, you were the preeminent program in college football. Matter of fact, you beat Alabama. You beat Alabama not once, but twice. Okay, you beat it. They beat Alabama. So twice, matter of fact, and embarrassed Alabama with Trevor Lawrence back in 18. When you get to that level, fans not trying to go back. Hey, you ever meet somebody? You ever hear somebody who's a millionaire and they become a millionaire or make 6, 7, 8, 9 figures? You think they're trying to go back to $50,000 a year? Like hell no. Like what? Oh no. And fans are the same way from that standpoint. They are not. These fans used to winning championships. They used to getting the playoff games. Used to having off seasons are like 11-3 or 12-2. That was an off season for Clemson. 9-4, 8-5. No. They not these fans, and Dabo's gonna learn real quick. These fans will turn on you. The university will turn on you in a heartbeat. Fans in particular, they will flip and be like, Dabo ain't shit. He got to go. The game is passing by. You're gonna start hearing that this year. Trust me. Last year, last year he had one bad year, his first bad year in like 8 or 9 years. Back to back 4 lost seasons, it's a wrap. And they were not so much getting fired, but the fans just really turned on them. It will not take long. Trust, believe me. I've seen this thing happen before. I saw it happen to Jimbo Fisher. How quickly shit can change. Jimbo Fisher at Florida State. Jimbo Fisher had Florida State rolling, and that flipped quickly. Now, part of that was, Florida State and their facilities and things of that nature. But things could change quickly in college football, especially now with the way the system is, with the way, again, the transfer portal and things of that nature. So again, Clemson, I don't see any light at the end of this tunnel, because I just don't see it. Dabo to me is a guy who just it's all about him. He's still stuck on that. I'm bigger than the program, and in 2024, you can't have that mentality and be successful at a super high level. So week 1 of college football, good weekend, not great, good weekend. A very good weekend. The USC LSU game, Notre Dame game was very good. USC LSU game was a borderline classic, excellent game. The big winners to me, Georgia is Georgia. Like, there's nothing like Georgia. The thing about Georgia actually could have, worse than that. Georgia, that game was a 6-point game at halftime, and Georgia, Coach Smart probably was like, listen, let's get serious here. He actually ran away with it in the second half, but there was you never thought, even at 6-0, like Clemson was having struggling to get first downs in the cross midfield. They only had 188 yards of total offense, and that's why you have comments about Roddy White talking about too many white dudes on offense with their offensive production that they had or lack thereof. But Georgia was never a threat. Georgia was never in danger. They are to me clearly the class of college football right now. What they've done since 2021 is just, it's ridiculous when you look at the record. You're talking about 40 straight games, 40-0 against, like, in 40 straight regular season wins. They're like 42-3 in their last 3 years, last 4 since 2021. Their only losses have been to Alabama since 2020. And they seem to be back to dominant defense. They have a guy in Beck who's going to compete for the Heisman Trophy, and they are a machine right now. again, I thought Georgia last year got everybody talked about Florida State, and I mentioned this on the podcast last year. I thought Georgia had an absolute gripe in terms of not being a playoff. I thought, to me, Georgia, you can't tell me that there were four better teams than Georgia last year. There weren't. There were not four better teams than Georgia, and they absolutely should have been in the playoff last year as only having one loss. They took that out on Florida State, a depleted Florida State team. But regardless, they took it out on Florida State. And again, there's no end in sight with this Georgia machine. And again, they are clearly, to me, the team to beat in college football. Excellent, great. The most impressive win of the weekend was by Notre Dame. To me, you go on the road against a Texas A&M team that's very good. They don't have a quarterback. Quarterback stinks. He's just. I mean, again, Notre Dame's defense is good. As a legit top 10 defense in the country, without question. But the quarterback stinks. The Texas A&M quarterback he's terrible. But that's a big time without Notre Dame. Notre Dame absolutely should make the playoff. I don't think Notre Dame's going to go undefeated. They'll lose a couple games, but they should be a virtual lock to make the playoff. And again, for Notre Dame, it's not just about, again, for these teams, Notre Dame, Ohio State, it's not making the playoff is not enough. You have to actually advance for it to be constitute as a successful season. Also, of course, USC taking out LSU in a very exciting game. Thought both quarterbacks played extremely well. USC has a ton of offensive talent. Now, again, listen, a lot of people, I know it's been a while since USC has been relevant from a championship standpoint, but let's calm the brakes on USC for a second. They have some nice young talent. I gotta see more. Before I'm not all in on USC being back. Let's just again, they have not been. They've had since Pete Carroll left. It hasn't been, they've had some lean years. They've had some bad years. They've had some misses on coaches and cultures and things of that nature. I'm not. I can't. Lincoln Riley's fine. We know Lincoln Riley in terms of offensively what he brings as a coach and coaching quarterbacks. I get it, but I have to see it over the course of a season to take him serious. To take him seriously, the defense is going to have to stand out. And Lincoln Riley has never been. We know watching Lincoln Riley all the years we watched him at Oklahoma that he's never been a defensive guy. We understand this. Let's keep that in mind about Lincoln Riley. He's never been a defensive guy. Great offensively, never been a defensive guy. So let me see this over the course of let me see this play out over the season before I go all in on USC being back and being this top flight program again. Again, last year, 20 looking at the right record. 2022, 11-3. They go and lost to the Cotton Bowl. Last year they go 8-5. So he's been one good year, one bad year. At USC, that's not good enough. It's not the standard at USC. USC is one of those blue blood football programs. You like Alabama, like a Notre Dame, Michigan. USC is on that level as a blue blood program. So it's not enough for USC just to play on January 1st. USC for USC fans, the real USC fans, to be satisfied, they have to be in playoffs and compete for national championships. I don't it's not good enough just to win 10 games, 11 games, and that's cute. That's cute for about 90% of college football. Universities, Division I, not USC. We're talking. This is USC here, and again, when you look at the recruiting base, when you look at the state, just recruiting, there's no excuse not to win at USC. There's zero excuse. You have you have all the resources, the recruiting base, the state of California. some of the best football talent in the country is from the state of California. So like, there's no zero excuses whatsoever. The tradition, the pedigree is so yeah, like you should win. You 1,000% should win at USC, considering some of the resources that you have. This week, the big game, you have Texas at Michigan. Much bigger game for Texas. Michigan's coming off a national championship. They lost Jim Harbaugh. I don't know if Michigan. I don't think. I mean, it's not going to be a rebuilding year for Michigan, but it's going. It could be one of these transitional years for Michigan where try to find their way. I don't expect Michigan to be. Michigan could be a playoff contender, but they'll slip a little bit. They're not winning another. They're not winning another national championship. But Texas, at a certain point, like Texas has to stand up at one point. And again, Texas now last year, you look at Texas, they got to the playoffs, and got to the playoffs, played well, and what have you. But it's been a while. 2005 is a long time. 2005 is an absolute long time since they've won a national championship. Every year they get top flight recruiting classes. So it's Texas. I'm not gonna say now, never for Texas football, but it's been a long time. And also again, Texas is another blue blood. There's another blue blood program for football. Like that. That's another. That's another blue blood program for football. They and every year they get these high level recruiting classes. So they need to win. Like at some point, get into a national championship game again. Last year they were in the playoffs, came up short, but they need Texas has they have a top program. They have great players all around. So much bigger game for Texas than it is for Michigan. It would be, and I think the game is at Michigan. So, but Texas absolutely should win that game, even though it's at Michigan. Texas has better talent up and down the court. So we'll see. That'll be at high noon. That will be the game of the day, the game of the week. As far as Florida State goes, I'm surprised by Florida State's start. I'm not necessarily shocked. Florida State lost a lot of talent to the NFL, a ton of talent. We're talking about a Heisman caliber quarterback. We're talking about first round picks up and down the board. Like guys that are going to be, a couple of guys have a chance to be, excellent NFL players, Jared Verse and what have you. They lost a lot of talent. And, I know Norvell has done a great job at rebuilding the program, but it's not at the level to where you could lose that type of talent and just bounce back and be like, you know what, we have a machine. He doesn't have that yet. That quite yet. So again, I'm not shocked, especially again when you lose the quarterback. Like that quarterback was so essential to what they did last year. It just you can't. It's hard. You can't. And again, they get excellent recruits, but they are also dependent on the transfer portal. They had like 25 transfers, and sometimes those guys hit, sometimes those guys miss. Now Norvell has been great with the transfer portal. He's been as good as any coach in college football with the transfer portal. But when you depend on that every year, it can go wrong. You're not going to knock it out the park every single year with that. I'm trying to see how many NFL pros. They had a number of guys go to the NFL last year. Again, they lost a ton. Again, the amount of talent that they lost was, yeah. So they had see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. They had what? Four. They had 10 players drafted. 10. Uh, 4 in the first 2 rounds. 6 in the first 3 rounds. Like that is a lot of talent. So that's a lot of talent to lose, and again to maintain, especially at the quarterback position. If you keep the quarterback, then like that changes the whole dynamic. Like Jordan Travis had another year eligible, then that like they don't have a quarterback right now. This guy, I think he can't. I think he did come from Clemson. He can't play. He's not even good. They don't have a quarterback. So as a Florida State fan, I wouldn't go panic. Like I wouldn't lose my shit. Like, they're not at the level to where they once were, to where they're gonna be top 5, top 10 every single year and playoff contender every single year. Now it does push you off from a standpoint. Well, you think about what could have been had Travis not got hurt and they got in the playoffs and what have you, and that situation. So that part that part might bother you. You can wonder what if, even though I don't think they would have won a national championship. I don't think that team would have won a national championship, but at least you just don't know. I think with Travis, that team was a legit national championship contender. Definitely a playoff team. They would have, if Travis is healthy, they automatically would have been in the playoffs. But they're not at the level to where they're going to be top 5 every single year, top 10 every single year. That's Georgia. That's Ohio State. Even Notre Dame is going to be top 10 every year. Those programs are few and far between. Alabama's still at that level. There's not too many of those programs. There's only a handful of those programs that can afford to lose top end NFL talent and replace it with, parade All-Americans and just 5-star recruits and don't miss a beat. And again, there's less and less of those programs, considering the state of college football the way it is right now. Now, the way it is now, Oregon probably is getting close to that level. Again, there are 3 schools that even Michigan too. Michigan right now is there, but for sure, you're talking Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama. Those 3 programs, they're going to be in that conversation for national championships year in and year out. Just like, and Florida State is just not even close. Like, they're just not there right now. So it's gonna be a long year for them. I don't maybe they win 6 games, maybe. It's seeming like they'd be 5-7, 6-6, 7-5 at best. Like you're talking about going 0-2. Not like they lost to Miami and Clemson here at the ACC, or NC State was very good this year. They lost, talking about Georgia Tech and BC. Now, BC is well coached. Jim O'Brien, we know he can coach college football, and we know he's a great, excellent offensive coordinator on the pro level. So BC will be well coached, and BC will have a decent season, but those are not, those two teams, I would not. Coming out the gate, I would have been like Florida State was going to be 2-0 facing those 2 particular teams. So NFL week 1 preview again. Barry talked about a little bit about the 2 primetime game, the 2 primetime games to kick off the season in regards to Baltimore and at least with Baltimore and Kansas City. Much more important game for Baltimore than it is Kansas City. We saw Kansas City lose to Detroit last year and get off to a slow start. Kansas City has the leeway to where considering what transpired last season, Kansas City would have to go like 0-5 or 0-4 for me not to believe that they're going to be there at the end. I'm not. If Kansas City's 3-3, if they're 4-4, if they're 5-5, I'm still going to believe that team is still the team to beat as long as Patrick Mahomes is healthy and the offensive line is relatively healthy. like that. They've earned that amount of credibility. They've earned that amount of cachet to their the team to beat. It's just that simple. They are my Super Bowl pick. They're my pick that went to 3P. Interesting game with Philadelphia and Green Bay from a quarterbacking standpoint. Jalen Hurts is coming off a bad season. He had a bad season. It was an awful season, but he took a step back from a MVP runner-up season from 2022, where he led the team to within, basically, a field goal or 3 points of a Super Bowl win, and played outside the fumble that got returned for a touchdown. Was nearly flawless in the Super Bowl. Played a great Super Bowl game, as he considered that was his first ever Super Bowl. The moment definitely wasn't too big for him. Took a major step back last year. Now, there are a number of reasons. We can go culture, Sirianni, who we can make a case shouldn't even be the coach. Just offensive philosophy. There are a lot of things that contributed to Hurts not performing at the level that he performed the previous season. Here's the thing. When you are getting paid what Jalen Hurts is getting paid, your job as a quarterback is to cover for mistakes, to cover for players leaving free agency, to cover for even somewhat suspect coaching. That is the reality of the NFL. That's the reality of what some of these top end quarterbacks are making. You have to cover. That's all there is to it. Like once a guy is off that rookie contract, and once you say, "Hey, this is our guy," you're trusting that guy covers up for a lot of mistakes. So you can have this excuse, that excuse. It really doesn't even matter what the excuse was or what the reason was. In a sense, Jalen Hurts has to dominate. He can't be good. He can't be very good. He has to dominate. And it's one of the reasons why right now Dak Prescott hasn't got his contract situation settled. Deep down, Jerry Jones knows that Dak is not the guy to cover up those mistakes, and Jerry does not want to give Dak Prescott game-changing quarterback, that NFL changing money, that type of money, because he doesn't believe he's on that level of a quarterback. If Jerry, let me tell you something. Jerry Jones is think about who Jerry Jones is before I get back to the Eagles Packers. Jerry Jones he's not cheap. Like Jerry Jones Jerry Jones loves his players. He loves spending. I've seen him spend on players. If Jerry Jones fucks with you, he will give you the world. Some players you be like, "Oh, Slim," like Ezekiel Elliott. Like Ezekiel Elliott was like we said on this podcast, and when Ezekiel Elliott signed that contract, I was like, "This is insane." I know Ezekiel Elliott at the time was a top back, but you don't pay running backs the type of money that Jerry Jones gave Ezekiel Elliott. And of course, the contract aged miserably. So my point is, Jerry Jones spends his money. He will spend his money, but he doesn't believe in Dak Prescott. Period. But even Jerry, for all his faults, Jerry knows that your quarterback has to cover up for mistakes. So, this is a big year for Jalen Hurts. This is the biggest year of his career. Again, I don't trust Sirianni as a coach right now. I got rid of a lot of assistants. We'll see what happens with that. But man, Jalen Hurts comes out this year and he plays average to mediocre. Philadelphia has they're fucked. Like that's all there is to it. They're fucked. I can't put it any other way. Jordan Love just got a record contract. He's coming off an all-pro caliber season, Pro Bowl year. Now shit gets real because now the expectation, Green Bay is we've been talking about blue bloods throughout this podcast with regards to college. Green Bay is a blue blood in regards to the NFL. This is the winningest franchise from a standpoint of all-time wins in NFL history. To go along with the 4 Super Bowls and the NFL championship. They have the most championships. If you add up Super Bowls and NFL championships, they have the most. I believe that number is like 12 that they have. It's Title Town. So now Jordan Love, the honeymoon of, hey, Rodgers is gone. The honeymoon of, hey, he's a young quarterback. That shit is over. There are people. I picked Green Bay to get to the Super Bowl. That's how I'm very high on Green Bay. I love Green Bay this year a lot. I'm very high on Green Bay. I think Love is the real deal. No pun intended. But we'll see what he's made of from a standpoint of, you kind of didn't come. It's not so much you came out of nowhere, but I don't think anybody expected him to play at the level he played at last year. Now you got some expectations. You have, people even in some circles, maybe even though they're not favored to win a championship, but there are some people that come at worst minimum get to the playoffs. You have to get to the playoffs, and you get to the playoffs and get knocked out, that'd be a slight disappointment. You don't get to the playoffs, that's a disaster. That if he's healthy, that's a failure. If they don't get to the playoffs and they're relatively healthy. So for different reasons, these it's gonna be interesting to watch. These are gonna be two of the more intriguing quarterbacks to watch over the course of the season for similar and different reasons in regards to Jordan Love and Jalen Hurts. And by the way, if I had to choose one right now who I would take to start a franchise with, I would take Jordan Love, to be honest with you. Just my opinion. I'm not basing it off just last season. I just I think he's a better pure thrower of the football, to be perfectly honest with you. So we'll see what happens with that particular game. Should be a fun game with Green Bay and Philadelphia. Other games of note, Dallas and Cleveland. Cleveland has as much talent across the board as any team in the league. Deshaun Watson, can he stay healthy? And which Deshaun Watson? What are we getting from Deshaun Watson? Like, Deshaun Watson goes out there and plays like Houston Deshaun Watson in the early years. That team could win a Super Bowl because they have everything else: defensive front, offensive line, running backs. They have everything. But it all hinders on Deshaun Watson and at what level he plays. Dallas, I told you, I don't have no faith in Dallas whatsoever. I have zero. And again, this is not hating. I hate Dallas, but I'm giving you my honest opinion about where I think the Cowboys are. I don't like that culture, the off season, even not having your star quarterback signed, like as of right now, maybe he signed as like this podcast. By the time you will see by the time you hear this podcast, he could be signed tomorrow, possibly. I doubt it, but it's by the time you hear this podcast, Prescott could be signed. But as of right now, he hasn't been signed. I don't like the energy going into the season for the Cowboys. Rams, Detroit should be an excellent game. That was a great playoff game last year. One of the better playoff games of the playoff season last year. Two teams that I have high expectations for. Detroit, I think, could get to NFC. I picked Detroit to get to the NFC Championship, to lose to Green Bay, and I picked the Rams to get to the playoffs, and I picked the Rams to be one of the teams that really you don't want to face in the first round. I think the Rams have a lot of talent. Obviously, they're well coached with McVay. They have a culture, so that should be a fun game to watch. So again, good week. Should be an excellent week of NFL football. You're going to be watching, that Cleveland Dallas game. That's the debut of Tom Brady. I think, to be honest with you, I care but don't care. Like, the game is the game. I don't think announcers have no impact on the game to me. A classic great announcer can, make it somewhat more watchable. But like kind of too much is being made talked about in regards to Tom Brady. I know he signed the contract is not insane, but it's obviously is a record contract and it's a fair ton of money. I don't who knows with Tom Brady. I don't know. I don't know what type of announcer Tom Brady is going to be. We really don't know. Like some guys have it, some guys don't. It's like it's not. I know. I mean, there are people that say, "Well, you knew Tony Romo was." People knew that Tony Romo was going to be, you know, this good. Yeah, did you? I know there are people that make predictions, but I don't. I don't think that knowledge of the game. I don't think Tom Brady, because Tom Brady is this obsessive, compulsive, like want to win at all costs. I don't think that equates to being a great announcer, being a great color commentator. I don't. I just like he could just his personality could just be. And I'm not talking about his regular everyday personality, but his television personality could suck. Like just because you have charisma off the air doesn't mean you gotta be charisma on the air. Like it doesn't. All that shit doesn't translate like that. We just don't know. No one knows. If they tell you they know, they're lying. No one knows what Tom Brady's going to be as an announcer. We don't know. Like, how critical is he going to be of the players? How is he? I already don't. This, I'm not going to. This thing about him with the ownership in Vegas with that, I should have probably. Yeah, that shit is just weird. To be honest with you, that's not ideal for the NFL. It's a very strange situation with in regards to the conflict of interest with him being a prospective owner with Vegas and that whole deal. That's just they knew Tom Brady was going to be a Fox announcer for over a year now. Like what? Like no one thought about how this could possibly look or what impact. I don't know. It seems like if Tom Brady has his that there's a certain set of rules for Tom Brady outside the Deflate Gate. I understand he got penalized for that, so be fair about that. But as far as Tom Brady as being an announcer, who knows? Who knows? If I were to guess, you made me guess. I'd be like he'll be somewhere in between. He'll be okay. He won't suck. He's not gonna make you forget about he won't make you forget about Phil Simms. I thought Phil Simms was great, to be honest with you. I actually thought Phil Simms might got a raw deal getting replaced by Tony Romo. I thought Phil Simms was great as a color commentator, but he's not gonna. Tom Brady's not gonna make you forget about any legendary color commentator that's come across our screens on in the NFL. So we'll see. Who won the week? Scott Scheffler. Scott Scheffler is capping off a win at the Tour Championships. At the Tour Championship, gets a $25 million bonus. $29 million he made this season. 7 wins this season, including winning the Masters, his second Masters, along with, of course, he won it back in 2022. The 7 wins are the most wins since Tiger Woods in 2007. Anytime you mention in the same sentence as Tiger Woods, that's a great thing. And a guy, again, this guy, he's going to be in contention. The thing that defines greatness in golf in particular, the reason why Jack Nicklaus, outside of the fact that he has that he won 18 majors, the thing that made Jack Nicklaus was the consistency. He has 18 majors, but he had 19 second place finishes. He was always in contention. Always was knocking at the door. Scheffler, in his last 8 majors, has 6 top 10 finishes. He's been right there. So just again, $25 million bonus. I mean, geez. And again, 7 wins. There are players who won't win 7 times in their whole career. Think about that. Like seriously, I mean, and good players, solid players. We're not talking about scrubs here. or guys struggling to make the cut. I mean, very good players who haven't won 7 times, who won't win 7 golf tournaments in their entire career. This guy is like what, late 20s, early 30s already has. Let me see how old he is. Already has 7. Already has won seven times on the tour in one season. So just a great season for him. And again, America right now in golf is just dominating. Like America right now is at like their dominance in the golfing is ridiculous. Like this may be the largest gap that we've seen between America and the rest of the world in a long time. He's only 28. Ouch. 28 years. He's only 28 years old, already with 2 majors. So he wins the week. Couple of real thoughts before I let you go. So we've had this epidemic in the past few years. It's not new, but with the expansion of social media and what have you in the 24-hour news cycle, the 12-hour news cycle, it's seemingly we're getting celebrities and their opinions on politics, especially in this era of Donald Trump and what have you, 2020 election and all of that. Or celebrities just talking about stuff that they really don't have any knowledge of. That if you're smart, it would go in one ear, out the other. Tyrese comes out, makes all these statements about, what Democrats are not doing, so on and so on. This Asian hate crime bill that doesn't exist. It's a crime bill that is an anti-hate crime. It was called, of course, the COVID-19 bill. You can do your own research. Don't take my word for it. There's no such legal document or bill that was signed off called the Asian hate crime bill. It's not true. And he comes out and says just a whole bunch of shit that just wasn't true, wasn't well researched, wasn't researched at all. And it's gotten to a point where people are just looking to just go viral. Like you'll say something just to say something. He said this on the Shannon Sharp Club Shay Shay podcast last week. And of course, anybody with any common sense or with any knowledge of politics or news, the Bowling Bar, number of people just ripped up a new one, and rightfully so. You have to correct this. You have to call people out on this because it's dangerous. Disinformation is absolutely dangerous. And again, you can be corrected and taught at the same time. There's zero. Again, I don't take anything a celebrity says about politics serious from a standpoint of me believing it. To be perfectly honest with you, a couple of things. There's zero excuse for Tyrese to make these type of statements without research. So Tyrese is a world-class musician, singer. You can say what you want about Tyrese. You can talk about his personal life, whatever, some of the things that have occurred and some of the stuff he's going through. You can talk about that till the cows come home. You cannot deny the talent he has as a singer. He's a tremendous singer, a talented singer. Heard great things about this new album that he's coming out with. So with that being said, and he's been acting for over 20 years. That takes a level. When you get to that level where you're a professional singer and professional actor, you have to do research for the parts. You have to study. There's a level of artistry and craftsmanship that more than likely you have to be at the level, to be at where Tyrese has been for the past 25 to 30 years. Tyrese has been around for 30 years. Remember, he was on that Sprite commercial. That was like in 96 or 98, somewhere around there. So he's been in the spotlight. He's been relevant from that standpoint of being of entertainment for basically 30 plus years. Sweet Lady lately. That came out in '98. Baby Boy came out in 2001. So I say all that to say there's zero excuse. It's much harder to do what Tyrese does than it is to actually to go out there and do the research on things of this nature. Anybody can do research. That's amazing. That is the amazing thing about where we are as a society and as a country. We've gotten I won't say dumber. We've gotten ignorant, more ignorant, which causes ignorance can lead to stupidity. And there's no excuse for it. Like, dude, you have more information at your disposal now than ever with technology. YouTube, Google, whatever is like. I mean, you remember those days when you had to go into a library and do a damn card catalog or encyclopedia, or you had to go like that. I remember those days. I was in high school. I genuinely remember doing book reports with not having a computer as a resource. I mean, the internet was around, but we wasn't. It wasn't at that level yet. You had to go out there, check out books, go through, check out eight or nine books, card catalog, the whole nine. Nowadays, all you have to do is go to your phone. You can go to your phone and Google. It's easier than ever to look up and research information. So it's zero excuse for a Tyrese or any celebrity not to do your due diligence before coming out your mouth with this bullshit. There's no excuse. And I'm glad Roland Martin ripped him a new one. And I'm glad he was called out. Dan Lathan, Rachel Lindsay on Higher Learning discussed it. It absolutely has to be called out. Again, I don't know Tyrese personally. I'm not saying Tyrese is a bad dude. I think Tyrese is a talented singer. He's made some good movies. To be honest with you, I like Baby Boy. He's been in some good movies. Some of the Fast and the Furious have been good. Not all of them that he's been in, but the majority of them that he's been in have been good. Have been quality movies. Not taking anything away from his career. He's had a phenomenal career. But with that being said, like, do your research. Like, it's just that simple. It's not hard to do research. It's not. It's just a matter of wanting to. So, and keep this in mind. Again, no, I'm done with that. I'm done with the Tyrese thing. I'm not even. I can go another 20 minutes with it as far as some of these celebrities and just what they say, and people. There are some people actually believe them, but yeah, we're moving on. So I'm gonna leave you on a high note, a positive note, relatively positive note. I just finished rewatching The Wire for like I don't know how many times. God knows how many times I've rewatched that show. I rewatch it at least once a year, so I'll put it to you that way. Here are my top five Wire. Here are my top five Wire episodes. I thought about this. Number 5, Late Editions. Okay, Late Editions is season 5, episode 9. It's Marlowe's speech in jail that was in essence like a 3-season build up to where this character, brilliantly played by Jamie Hector, was reserved, and then he explodes because of course, his name had been torn down on the street, disrespected on the street by, of course, Omar. So that scene was brilliant, and of course, Michael taking out Snoop, how my hair looked like. Michael saying goodbye to Dookie and his brother, based off some of the choices that he's made. It was a powerful episode. Just a tremendous episode. Second to last episode of the entire series. It's probably the second best episode of season 5. And I have it in my top 5. It's my it's the fifth best episode in the history of the show to me. 4, I have All Prologue, season 2, episode 6. This is the episode where D'Angelo is killed and Omar, the legendary Omar court scene. Again, D'Angelo completely breaks from the Barksdales and from Avon, and even in death, he is free from the standpoint of that he was no longer under that bind of he can be completely who he was. Very powerful. You had the Great Gatsby, reference in during that one of the scenes Larry Gilbert was acting like at his level that from season one until mid. I can make a case from season one up until the middle part, up until the halfway point of season two, that he was the most valuable character on the show. You can absolutely make that strong case. He definitely was, I think, the season one MVP of season one. And Gilliard's performance, he was acting his ass off in season one in particular, and throughout in the first 6 episodes of season two. So, and the Omar court scene is, of course, that was one of the great scenes in the history. One of the great scenes, arguably the best scene in the history of the show, and one of the great scenes that you will ever see in television. Omar lying through his teeth to put Bird in jail, but recognizing the game that's being played by everybody. Like he recognized, like Omar seeing things, basically being 3 moves ahead and seeing things before, just knowing, just understanding his understanding of the game and what was going on during that particular scene was an incredible scene. So that's number 4. For me, I have 30, the series episode, the series finale. I think in conversation for best series finale that I've ever seen, it's Boardwalk Empire. I think probably would be number 1. The Sopranos obviously has aged extremely well. That one has aged extremely well over the course, considering when you really break it down. I still put it over The Sopranos, but the only series finale I've seen that was better was Boardwalk Empire. This one, they did it. They had an hour and 30 minutes, but they basically wrapped up the entire 5 seasons, as well as you can possibly wrap it up. And considering that they did not get the full 12 to 13 episodes that they normally get, you can't come up with you can't do a better job of wrapping up a series. And again, a lot of people don't like season 5. I love season 5. After watching season 5 again, you talk about, I think, like I said, two of the episodes that I have from the series all time are from season 5. Number 2, Final Grades, the season finale of season 4. That's the episode, of course, Bodie gets killed. McNulty returns back to the major crimes. That you see all the kids in terms of their future. Michael has his first kill. And you see all the 4 boys go in their different directions. Definitely my second favorite, like clearly my second favorite Wire episode of all time, Final Grades. That was like an hour and 15 minutes long. Bubs tries to, Bubs tries to kill himself. I think at the beginning of that, Bubs tries to kill, was this season? Yeah, Bubs tries to kill himself. Or that might have been actually, no, that was the episode that Bubs tried to kill himself, actually. Yeah. So a lot going on there was a lot going on in that particular episode. That capped off to be the best season in the history of not only The Wire, season 4, but one of the best seasons in the history of television, in my opinion. And number 1 was kind of easy, to be honest with you. Middle ground. That's episode 11. I have it 12. Episode 11, season 3. Stringer Bell getting killed. You have Clay Davis playing Stringer Bell, and then Levy telling Stringer about it. That was hilarious. Hilarious how Levy basically taunted Stringer Bell. You had the Avon, 2 powerful scenes with Avon, with Butter Mouzon and Cuddy. A lot happened. And of course, you had the Avon Stringer balcony scene. That was a goodbye from that standpoint. Even the Stringer Money Coleman scene was underrated. Very underrated scene. That, and of course, like I said, at the top, Stringer, Butter Mouzon, and the late great Michael K. Williams, Omar, finally catching up to Stringer and taking him out was that. At that time, that was like is shocking of television. That was the most shocking television depth I had ever seen. Like you didn't take out characters of his of Stringer Bell's ilk. Like people were actually concerned about the show moving forward. After that, people wondering, could the show possibly move forward? Well, of course they did, because they had the greatest season in television history in season 4. But Middle Ground is easily number 1 to me. Easily, number 1. A couple of things I take away. Character, one thing, and I'll let you go. If I did a top 5 character list, and maybe one day I'll do that. I don't feel like doing it. I didn't think about it now, but if I did do a top 5 character list of all time, I think Clay Davis, the Clay Davis character, would have to be in there for me. This dude, this dude was a guy who you hated to love and loved to hate, and rooted for and against. The guy who plays Clay Davis, I can't forgot his name now. I should remember his name. It's just what he has to be. That guy, that Clay Davis character has to be one of the top 5 characters of all time in Wire history. He has to be. And that his character stood out. Look at the actor, Isaiah Whitlock Jr. That has to be that, because again, you rooted for this guy, but you also wanted him to go to jail as well. You also wanted this dude to get caught, because he was such a piece of shit as far as scamming people. But this dude knew how to play the game. He understood the game. He as well as you could possibly understood it. And he always found his way out of situation. Clay had 9 lives. This dude had 9 lives. And again, this dude, everybody knows that this dude is crooked, but he kind of had it's kind of like I would compare him to what's the character from Game of Thrones? The one that Carcetti played. Littlefinger. He kind of was like Littlefinger. Like, he was connected to everything that was important in a sense. The politics, the criminals, everything he had his hand in, and people needed Clay Davis. He put himself in a position where he had to be needed, and he took full advantage of it. But the guy, again, the character is just incredible character. Especially after this rewatch, and I always liked the character. I always liked the Clay Davis character, but after he definitely stood out from seasons 3 to 5. Like, he was it. Like, first 2 seasons, we kind of got introduced to him, but seasons 3 to 5, I mean, this guy was just when he was on the screen, like, you couldn't take your eyes off him when he was on the screen. He just killed these scenes. So those are my top 5 Wire episodes, and from the millionth rewatch that I've done, I would say the Clay Davis character stands out the most to me as something like that, as a character that has to be considered one of the great Wire characters of all time. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. As always, thank you for the support. Next week will be season 17 premiere of the Real Deal Podcast. We'll talk, of course, a lot of NFL, college football, and I'm sure some celebrity will say something stupid. Do something stupid. We'll talk about that and a lot more. Have a great rest of your week. This podcast will be out tomorrow, so keep that in mind. And again, before I let you go, you can find us anywhere where podcasts are available. YouTube, of course, yes, YouTube, iHeart, iTunes, Spotify, etc. Have a great rest of your evening. So long.